I never believed in fairy tale families. My mom had been through 2 failed marriages, and I stopped dreaming about stability by the time I turned 16. So when she told me she was marrying a man from Seattle she met online, Richard A., quiet, well-dressed man with a son just a year older than me, I didn't roll my eyes. I just packed my bags, followed her into this new chapter, and told myself not to care too much. But then I met Ethan, and everything changed. He wasn't what I expected. Not some cocky jock or aloof rebel. Ethan was calm to calm. Reserved, his green eyes were serious, his voice soft but heavy, like he was always thinking about something deeper. He had a scar on his jaw that caught my attention immediately. Later, I'd find out it came from a fight he never talked about. That first day when we shook hands in his dad's big house just outside the city, our eyes locked for a second, longer than normal, just enough to make my heart stutter. It was subtle, but real. We didn't become friends overnight. At dinner, we barely spoke. I'd catch him watching me sometimes from across the table, then quickly looking away. I wasn't used to that kind of quiet intensity, and I couldn't decide if I liked it or hated it. Our rooms were down the hall from each other, and some nights I'd hear soft music playing from his side late into the night. Other times, I'd see him outside on the porch, just staring at the stars, cigarette in hand, completely alone in his world. One night I joined him. I couldn't sleep, and something pulled me to the kitchen. He was already there, barefoot, drinking orange juice straight from the carton like a scene from a movie. We laughed about it, lightly, awkwardly. But in that moment, the distance between us cracked. I told him I had nightmares sometimes. He told me his mom died when he was 12, and that after she was gone, he stopped believing in love. It always ends, he said, like he wasn't even sad about it anymore. Just numb. We sat there in silence, side by side, closer than we'd ever been. The kind of silence that buzzes in your ears and makes your skin heat up. Then it happened. A slow, lean, shared breath. His lips touched mine. Soft, careful, not rushed, not like in the movies. Real, raw. I didn't pull away. My body trembled. But not from fear, from the electricity that rushed through me like a wave crashing into shore. It wasn't just a kiss, it was something else, something forbidden, something dangerous. He was my stepbrother now, not by blood, but by circumstance. And somehow that made it worse. Or maybe it made it better. When we finally pulled apart, neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. The air between us said it all. This was not supposed to happen, but it did. And no matter how wrong it was, it felt too right to regret. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the kiss over and over in my mind. My fingers tingled where he had touched my cheek. My lips still felt his breath. I wasn't just confused. I was completely, totally shaken. And somewhere deep inside me, I knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Asterisk after that first kiss. Nothing. Between Ethan and me was the same. We didn't talk about it. We didn't have to. The silence between us was louder now, charged with tension, like we were holding our breath around each other, afraid that saying anything would make it all fall apart or fall even deeper. Every time I saw him, I felt my pulse race, rushing. Past him in the hallway, sitting across from him at breakfast. Hearing his footsteps in the middle of the night, it all felt different, heavier, more dangerous. I'd catch him staring at me when he thought I wasn't looking. And I'd stare too, because how could I not? Ethan wasn't just attractive. He had that quiet kind of confidence, that edge of sadness that made me want to understand him, fix him, get closer. But the truth was, we were both scared. We knew this wasn't normal. We were step-siblings now. We lived under the same roof. Our parents were happy, finally. And one wrong move from us could blow everything up. But even knowing that we couldn't stop the pull, it got harder to resist him. Every moment alone felt like a test we were failing. And when our parents announced they were going away for the weekend, I think we both knew we wouldn't make it through without crossing the line again. That Friday night, it was just us. We ordered pizza, watched an old movie, and tried to act casual. But by the time the movie ended, the distance between us on the couch had completely disappeared. I remember the exact moment he turned to me. His voice was low, almost broken. "Are you scared of this?" he asked, like he was still giving me a chance to back out. I nodded, but I didn't move. And then he kissed me again. But this time, it wasn't careful or uncertain. It was deep, passionate, like he'd been holding it in for years. I kissed him back like my heart had finally found the thing it had been aching for. That night, we didn't just kiss. We gave in fully. We let go of the fear, the rules, the guilt. I remember the feel of his hands, the way he whispered my name like it meant something, the way he looked at me like I was his escape and his home all at once. It was more than just physical. It was emotional, spiritual, like we'd finally found someone who saw us completely. But even in the warmth of that night, there were shadows. Afterward, as we lay tangled up in each other, I asked him softly, "What are we going to do?" He didn't answer right away, just stared at the ceiling, silent. "I don't know," he said finally. And I knew then that even though we had shared something real, something honest and raw, Ethan was still carrying something inside him, something he hadn't told me. There was a distance in his eyes, a sadness I couldn't reach. I didn't press him, not yet. I was afraid that if I pushed too hard, I'd lose what we had. But the truth hung between us, unspoken and heavy. Something was coming. I could feel it. And no matter how good it felt to be in his arms, a part of me knew this story was far from over. The weeks after that night were like a dream I didn't want to wake up from. Ethan and I were careful, secret looks, quiet touches when no one was watching, soft kisses behind closed doors. We became experts at hiding. But even when we were together, I could feel it, that wall Ethan still kept between us. There were times he'd shut down completely, like his mind had wandered somewhere I couldn't follow. I tried to ignore it, hoping time and love would melt, whatever he was, holding back, but love doesn't work that way. Secrets don't disappear just because you want them to. And deep down, I knew something was coming. I just didn't expect to find it buried in his desk. It happened one afternoon while he was out. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for my charger, which I thought I might have left in his room. When I opened the drawer, I saw it, a crumpled, yellowed envelope with his handwriting on the front. It was addressed to Dad, but it had never been sent. My heart thudded as I opened it, already knowing it would change everything. The letter was raw, written like he was bleeding into the page. In it, Ethan wrote about overhearing a fight between his mother and Richard years ago before she passed away. A fight that ended with his mom confessing that Richard wasn't his real father. Ethan had been just a kid, hiding behind the door, hearing everything. He never told anyone, never said a word, kept that truth locked inside and went on pretending, living a lie to keep the peace. But I saw it now, the root of all his pain. He'd spent years feeling like a ghost in his own house. It's like a mistake no one wanted to admit. And now, sitting on his bed, holding this letter, I realized something else. This was why he pushed me away, even when he wanted me close. Because if he didn't even know who he truly was, how could he be with me the way I needed? When he came home and saw the letter in my hands, his face went pale. I expected him to get angry, to yell, accuse, shut down. But he didn't. He just looked tired, defeated. "You read it?" he asked, barely above a whisper. I nodded. "Why didn't you tell me?" I said, "Why did you keep that inside all this time?" He didn't answer right away. Then he whispered, "Because if I said it out loud, it'd be real. And I'm not ready to be that broken in front of you." I wanted to hold him, tell him it didn't change anything, that I still wanted him, all of him, but he pulled away. Not roughly, but like he was already leaving in his mind. That night, he didn't stay in my room. I waited up, listening, for his footsteps, hoping he'd come back. But he never did. The next morning, he was gone. No message, no explanation, just ... Gone. My heart broke in a way I'd never felt before. Not the sharp pain of a breakup, but a slow, empty ache that stretched across every part of me. I waited a week. Then 2. Until one morning my mom mentioned casually over breakfast that Ethan had moved to New York, said he wanted space, a new start. She smiled when she said it, like it was a good thing. Like she didn't know he'd left a part of me shattered behind. And just like that, the boy who had kissed me like I was the only thing that made sense became a ghost. Asterisk 2 years passed, but it never felt like closure, just distance. Life moved on, or at least it pretended to. I graduated college, got a decent job in Chicago. Even tried dating a few people who were sweet and stable and absolutely nothing like Ethan. But no matter how far I ran, a part of me always stayed. In that house, on that porch, in that rain-soaked kiss with the boy who left without saying goodbye. I tried to hate him, to tell myself he was selfish or weak, but I couldn't. Because love like that, the kind that shakes your soul, doesn't disappear. It buries itself deep. And sometimes you don't even realize how much you miss someone until you see their face again. It was a chilly October morning in New York when it happened. I was there for a work trip, grabbing coffee before a client meeting. And there he was, behind the counter, wearing a worn gray hoodie and looking older, quieter, but still painfully him. His hair was a little longer, his jaw sharper, but those green eyes stopped me cold. For a second, he didn't recognize me. Then his lips parted, and he said my name like it still meant something. Harper. We stood outside the coffee shop for what felt like hours, talking like no time had passed and also like lifetimes had gone by. He told me he'd needed to get away, not from me, but from the person he'd become in that house. Said he worked nights, read a lot, tried therapy, said he thought about me every damn day and wrote 100 unsent messages he never had the courage to send. I wanted to be angry, to ask why he left without warning, but standing there, watching the wind move through his hair, hearing the honesty in his voice, I couldn't. Because even though he left, I knew he never really let me go. We walked through Central Park that afternoon, side by side, not touching but feeling everything between us. He finally said what I'd waited years to hear. I loved you then. I just didn't know how to love myself. And I was afraid that staying would ruin you. I stopped walking, turned to him. You didn't ruin me, Ethan. You just broke me a little. But I healed, and I'm here. His eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in them before. Hope, though there were no grand gestures, no perfect speeches. Just to people who had lived some life, made some mistakes, and still found their way back to the one person who made their heart feel like home. We didn't talk about what we were supposed to be. We just sat on that park bench in the fading light and leaned into each other like it was the most natural thing in the world. He kissed me softly, carefully, like he was afraid I'd disappear, but I didn't. I kissed him back, not like the scared girl I was 2 years ago, but like the woman I'd become, someone who had loved and lost and still chose him. Because some love stories aren't clean or easy. They don't follow rules or timelines. Some begin with pain and end in peace. And maybe ours wasn't perfect, but it was real. And sometimes that's more than enough.